Hey, sports card fans, it's John, Boggs fan. Hope you're all doing well. This is season 2, episode 18, in which I choose my top 5 favorite cards of a particular player. At the end of last week's video, I spun the wheel of names and it landed on Ted Simmons. Now, for those of you that may not be too familiar with Ted Simmons's career, I'm going to give you a little bit of his background here. Ted Simmons was the rarest of the rare in baseball, a catcher who could hit for power and average. Born August 9, 1949 in Highland Park, Michigan, Simmons excelled in both baseball and football in high school, earning gridiron scholarship offers from Ohio State, Michigan, Michigan State, Purdue, and Colorado. But when the Cardinals made Simmons their first-round draft pick 10th overall in 1967, the switch-hitting catcher knew his future was on the diamond. Simmons debuted in the big leagues in 1968 as a 19-year-old prodigy. He led the California League in hitting in 1969, then joined the Cardinals for good in 1970. The next season, Simmons hit .304 with 7 homers and 77 RBI, finishing 16th in the National League Most Valuable Player voting before he turned 23. In his first 7 full seasons in the majors, Simmons hit at least .303 5 times, garnered MVP votes in 6 seasons, and was named to 4 All-Star teams. His 193 hits in 1975 are the most of any catcher who caught at least 150 games in a season, and his 192 hits in 1973 rank second on that same list. And Simmons kept on hitting. From 1971 to 1983, he averaged 17 homers and 90 RBI per season to go along with a .294 batting average. He was named to 6 of his 8 career All-Star games in the 1970s. Ted, affectionately known as Simba, was traded to the Brewers after the 1980 season, and in Milwaukee he helped the Brewers reach the playoffs in 1981 and advance to the World Series the following year. In the Fall Classic, Simmons hit 2 home runs, but his former Cardinals team won the title in a 7-game thriller. Simmons finished his playing career from 1986 to 1988 as a part-timer with the Braves, then served as the Pirates general manager in the early 1990s. His final playing days totals: a .285 batting average, 2,472 hits, 483 doubles, 248 home runs, and 1,389 RBI. His 182 National League home runs ranked first on the all-time National League switch hitters list at the time of his retirement. Among those who played at least 50% of their games at catcher, Simmons ranks second in hits, second in doubles, second in RBI, and 5th in runs. Simmons was elected to the Hall of Fame in 2020. All right, so to help me narrow down the choices that I had to select from to pick my top 5 favorite Ted Simmons cards, I went with the PSA Topps Set Registry checklist. So it's all his base Topps cards from 1971 to 1988. So 18 cards in total that I had to choose from to pick my top 5 favorite. Now, here's where I would love all of you to participate as well. In the description of this video, I'll have a link to the PSA Basic Topps Set Registry checklist, and you can check out the 18 cards that make up his Topps Playing Days run. And from those 18 cards, would love to know in the comments which are your top 5 favorite Ted Simmons cards. And if you could rank them 1 through 5, 5 through 1, it'll help me compile the results for next week's video. And beyond those 18 Topps cards, if there are some other Ted Simmons cards that you really like, feel free to put them in the comments as well, and I'll list them as honorable mentions in next week's video. All right, now before I get into my top 5 favorite Ted Simmons cards, the video for last week was on Billy Williams, and there were several of you who put in the comments letting me know which were your top 5 favorite cards of his. So I'm going to start off by going over the results of last week's video in your comments and see how your top 5 matches up with my top 5 Billy Williams cards. Then I'll get into my top 5 favorite Ted Simmons cards. I'll turn the camera around and show off the few Ted Simmons cards I have in my collection. And then, of course, we'll get back to the Wheel of Names, give it a spin, and see which player will be the focus for next week's video. So let's get started. All right, for Billy Williams, you had 16 cards to choose from his PSA Basic Topps Set Registry Checklist, which would be his 1961 through 1976 Topps cards. And there were 9 of you who replied in the comments letting me know which were your top 5 favorite cards of his. Again, thank you to those who reply in the comments. I love the interaction. In fact, that's the part I love most about doing these videos is your comments and interacting with me and letting me know which are your top 5 favorite. And it's always interesting to get different collectors' opinions as to which cards they like of a particular player versus my top 5 favorites. So again, thank you to all of you who reply in the comments. All right, so for Billy Williams, here are the cards that were selected the most. There were 6 here, and leading the way was his 1964 Topps card with 8 selections. Then his 1961 Topps rookie card had 7 selections. His 1962 Topps card had 6 selections, as did his 1965 Topps card. And then we have a tie for 5th place, 3 selections each for his 1963 and 1966 Topps cards. There were 2 of his cards that no one selected for their top 5, his 1973 and 1975 Topps cards. Now, before we get into how these cards here that you selected, how they rank 1 through 5 and compared to mine, there were some honorable mentions put in the comments. So let's take a look at those, starting off with his 1970 Topps Super, the 1972 Topps In Action, the 1975 SSPC, while the regular 1975 Topps card was not selected by anyone. As an honorable mention, someone put down his 1975 Topps Mini card. And then we have his 1990 Pacific Legends, the 1992 Action Packed card. You don't see that one show up that often. And then finally, the 2023 Topps Chrome Platinum Anniversary in the 1954 Topps design. All right, so let's compare your overall compiled top 5 to my top 5 Billy Williams cards. And coming in at number 5, overall, you had his 1964 Topps card, and I had that as my 3rd favorite. At number 4, you had his 1966 Topps card, which I did not have in my top 5. At number 3, you had his 1965 Topps card, which I had as my 2nd favorite. Then at number 2, you had his 61 Topps card, which I had as my top favorite Billy Williams card. And then at number 1, you had his 1962 Topps card, while I had that as my 5th favorite Billy Williams card. All right, again, let's get into Ted Simmons for the focused player for this video here. 18 cards in his PSA Basic Topps Set Registry Checklist, starting with his 1971 rookie card and going to his final Topps card, the 1988 Topps card. And for me, at number 5, I went with his 1975 Topps card. Now, I mentioned in his bio, his nickname was Simba. And while I probably should have done maybe a little bit more research, I'm assuming that his nickname for Simba was because of his long hair. Now, he didn't have such long hair when he was a rookie earlier in his career, but I think in the mid to late 70s, he let his hair grow really long. And I think, the mane and Simba and Lion and stuff like that. And I thought his 1975 Topps card, just sort of that, shot of, looking up at him from below, and you see his long hair. To me, that epitomizes his nickname, Simba. So I went with his 1975 Topps card as my 5th favorite. At number 4, I went with his 1980 Topps card. With Ted Simmons being a catcher, I love images of catchers in their uniforms in different types of poses. Most of them, they're crouched in the catching position, but other ones have more. And this is sort of, I guess you can call it an inaction. It's during the play of the game. There's probably some play where he had his mask off and maybe they're getting ready to reset. The pitcher has the ball back and so on. But I just thought it was a cool image of him. And of course, with this 1980 Topps set, you have that extra black banner at the top, recognizing that he was an all-star in the National League for the 1979 season. All right, at number 3, I went with his 1977 Topps card. Somewhat similar image, although I love the color combination that Topps used with this. The green and the Cardinals, even though that's not part of the uniform, but the red Ted Simmons and the uniform, I just think makes for a very visually appealing card. And again, you have that post play, right before the next batter comes up, that sort of semi action shot. And as you can see here, by 1977, he has cut his hair back a little bit there. So, just a great image, I think, of Ted Simmons, and overall a very appealing looking card with the different color combinations. At number 2, I went with his 1971 Topps rookie card. You can tell he's a lot younger, sort of has that more serious look to him. But love the black border of the 71 Topps card. You have the stadium in the background. Now, normally for American League players, you'd say, oh, well, that's the Yankee Stadium in the background. And I'm wondering if that is possibly Shea Stadium in the background, since it's National League. I think a lot of photographers were out of New York, so we'd love to know in the comments. I'm still trying to work on my stadiums to know which ones are in the background, but that could be St. Louis, but I believe it looks like a grayish uniform, so I think it's an away uniform for the Cardinals. And I can't tell the players there in the dugout there, but just looking at the color combination of the seats, I'm guessing it's Shea Stadium. So we'd love to know in the comments if you think I'm right, or if you know if it's a different stadium there. But again, overall, he's not in his full catcher's gear, but he's in that crouched catching position. And just overall, I like his 71 Topps rookie card. All right, at number 1, it is somewhat of a sentimental pick, but I also think it is a great image. His 1978 Topps card. Those who follow my channel know that the 78 Topps card is very special. The 1978 Topps set is very special to me. And again, the color combination, he's in his catcher's gear, great smile. The background, I'm not sure what stadium that is. That may be during spring training. It doesn't look like a major league stadium. But again, I just think the smile, the catching gear, the color scheme of the 78 Topps set, I think has everything going for it. And so while I may be in the minority, I chose his 1978 Topps card as my favorite Ted Simmons card. All right, I'm going to turn the camera around now. I have 3 Ted Simmons cards in my collection, so I'm going to show them off. All right, I mentioned I have 3 Ted Williams cards in my collection. Those are graded cards. I'm almost positive I have somewhere in a 5,000 count box his 1987 Topps card, his 1988 Topps card, and possibly his 85, maybe even his 81 or 82. But I didn't pull those out, and I'm just showing off here the graded cards I have. So they are later in the quote-unquote vintage time period. So we'll start off with my favorite Ted Simmons card, his 1978 Topps card. I have this one in a PSA 8, just a great looking card. And there is the back. Then I have his 1979, not the most flattering image of him. Not even sure where that is. Outside the dugout, maybe. I'm not sure why Topps decided to use this image of all the images for Ted Simmons. Just seems to be a bit of a odd choice, but nonetheless, here's his 79. And I think this one, I have it in a 7. Either centering issues that made an 8 at the time when I bought this. I've had this now for several years as I started to try to chip away at some of the 79 Topps Hall of Famers. And either, higher grades or really hard to find and maybe more expensive. I haven't looked up what the value of this or what an 8 is, but I have this one in a 7. I started off by trying to get the quote-unquote decade grade. So I'm sure I initially tried to look for, well, it's from the 70s. I probably tried to look for it in an 8, and that was back when I was a little bit more, I have to say, a little bit more concerned about that number grade up there, which I'm not now. But still, really nice looking card, other than possibly the image of Ted Simmons. All right, and the last card that I have is also one on my top 5 favorite, his 1980 Topps card. And there is the back of that one. As you can see, he was an all-star in 1979, warranting that extra banner that Topps put on some of the sets. All right, so my 3 graded Ted Simmons cards in my collection. So let's get to the Wheel of Names, give it a spin, and see which player it selects. All right, we have 22 names remaining on the Wheel of Names. And as you can see, there are the names that still haven't been picked yet. So let's give it a spin. And the player for next week is going, which one's it going to be? Wow, that was close. Dave Parker, one of the newest, at least from the vintage era, players elected to the Hall of Fame. I know I'm still missing. I still need to pick up his 1978 Topps card to recomplete my Hall of Fame run for that set. Have to see. I'm not sure if I have any graded cards of Dave Parker, but maybe I can find some ungraded ones in my collection. But nonetheless, it's still going to be fun to go through his Topps cards and pick my top 5 favorite. And a final reminder, in the comments, would love to know which are your top 5 favorite Ted Simmons cards. And with that, that's all I have for you. So until next time, thanks for watching.